While yes, it is true that in certain situations, fish could be kept with an axolotl, it is 100% not recommended for two reasons. What's up, everybody? It's Collin at Tye-Dyed Iguana. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about the 5 biggest myths regarding axolotls and their care. Myth number 1, bare bottom tanks will cause axolotls to become stressed. So, this is a myth. Although it's not very naturalistic to have your axolotl on a glass bottom tank, this approach can have several benefits. So the first benefit is there's literally zero risk of consumption of substrate, but we will talk about that later. The second thing people always say is they don't have the ability to grip. Well, axolotls being in an aquatic environment, they already have neutral buoyancy. So with the many hundreds of axolotls we've bred over the years, and many breeders keep them on glass bottom tanks. So not having any substrate in the bottom will not harm your axolotl. So that's myth number 1. They can be kept in a bare bottom enclosure. Myth number 2, aquarium gravel is a safe substrate for axolotls. This is absolutely not true. Axolotls, there's several substrates you can go with, but we usually recommend here at the store is 2 different options. I usually recommend a high quality sand, or you can also go with an aqua soil. We don't like to use aquarium gravel for 2 reasons. First off, it's not very naturalistic for an axolotl. The second reason is axolotls are vacuum feeders. So what does that mean? It means when they eat their food, you've probably seen them, they go and they suck in a big gulp of water with their food. Because of this, axolotls, especially small juveniles, can be prone to choking or impaction if they ingest aquarium gravel. So stick with your sand or stick with aqua soil capped with a nice high quality aquarium sand, such as Seachem's fluorite sand or some Zoomed Repti sand. Myth number 3, axolotls require a chiller on their aquarium. This one is a flat out myth. It is not true. Although the ideal temperature range for an axolotl is 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, they can be kept slightly above this range. In fact, if your house is sitting at 70 degrees, you can keep an axolotl with no problems, since most people's temperature in the house is usually 72 or below. Above 72, it is true that it can increase stress or make them more prone to fungal or bacterial infections, but you do not need a chiller. So if your axolotl is running between 68 to 72 degrees in temperature, you're gonna be okay. Now, although some breeders do choose to utilize a chiller on their systems, it is 100% not absolutely required. Having said that, I know for a fact that several breeders now are beginning to raise their larval axolotls at warmer temperatures. The reason for this is twofold. So because in colder water, the oxygen concentration is higher, that's why you see axolotls that are raised in very cold water with huge fluffy gills. If they're raised in warmer temperatures, their gills are not as large because they don't need as much surface area to absorb all that oxygen in the water column. As well, with some breeders that are raising them a little bit warmer, it's going to make them a little bit naturally more resistant to disease and stress since they are used to those conditions. Of course, if you have an axolotl that was raised in 55-degree water and you move to 72, of course that's going to stress this guy out. But if you have an axolotl that's already used to room temperature water, 68 to 72, it's going to be fine. You do not need a chiller. Myth number 4, axolotls are fish. Axolotls, although they are primarily aquatic, are wholly aquatic, these guys are not fish. So axolotls belong to a class of organisms called an amphibian. So amphibians are unique. They're their own class of animal. Amphibians have some commonalities. They have a porous skin, and they also lay eggs in water and have a larval stage. Now, an axolotl is unique amongst amphibians because they remain in the larval stage their entire life. So that does make them unique, but they are definitely not a fish. Although these guys are sometimes referred to as the Mexican walking fish, these guys are not a fish. Although if they're in shallow water environments, it is possible for them to flail themselves off into the next little pond or pool. These guys absolutely cannot exist on land for long term. Now, I'm sure you guys might have seen videos of axolotls that have occasionally morphed into a land form, but that is usually extremely rare, and it has to do with stressors in the environment that are forcing that change. In a healthy axolotl, it will never metamorphosize onto a land-dwelling animal. It will stay in the larval stage. All right, myth number 5. You can keep cold water fish with axolotls, or cold tolerant fish with axolotls. While yes, it is true that in certain situations, fish could be kept with an axolotl, it is 100% not recommended for 2 reasons. So some fish, although they might tolerate a similar temperature range, there are 2 issues with this. Because we know they have those big, beautiful, fluffy gills, fish can sometimes have a tendency to pick on those gills, which is no bueno when it comes to your axolotl. The second reason is axolotls are highly carnivorous. So if there's any sort of small fish or crustacean in your tank, that's going to be a potential food source, and again, could be a choking hazard depending on the size of the fish. So Fish cannot be kept with axolotls, although you might see it done. We don't recommend it. Please do not do it. If you have any questions about axolotls or their care, be sure to drop in store or send us a message online. Have a great day, guys, and we'll see you soon.